Hello friends, I am Martin Aedma from bjjblackbelt.net and I welcome you to the second episode of my very own Jiu Jitsu show. Now this is named Open Guard Continued for the very simple reason that I wanted to continue with the open guard. I have some more clips that I wanted to show you where different players like Leandro, I show a few clips of the Mia brothers, or at least one of them, and they apply the same. Kron, Gracie, I'll show you they apply the same concept that I showed you for guard recovery in the first episode. They use the same posture as the base of their open guard. So just a continuation from where I left off in episode 1. Also, episode 1 got taken off the YouTube because I had a copyright infringement claimed against it or filed against it by a certain big, menacing, evil MMA network that also holds YouTube channels for some jiu-jitsu events, and I did use a clip from one of their events. I mean, I thought it was a clear-cut case of fair use. The people I showed it and tried to get answers on it. Why did I? Wasn't it fair use? And they agreed that it was. But nonetheless, YouTube sides with the site that presents the claim, and immediately, so it would be my turn then to kind of say no, it wasn't fair use and start proving that, or start going for that after that. So, but I just let it just be. I try to avoid what clips I use and be more careful which clips I use, so I don't have to deal with all sorts evil, menacing, big, strong-arming, bullying networks. Anyway, episode 1 is actually still up, but just not on YouTube. It's on Vimeo. Vimeo is I was told much better in that department than YouTube, and I hope I can figure out how to use these text boxes things to on the screen to give you a link. So you should, if I manage to do that, you'll be seeing one right about now. If not, then check out the link on the bottom. So and I recommend that if you have not watched episode 1, that you go do that. I explained the posture that all of these top guys use as a base of their open guard, where they build their attacks upon, that they fall back upon when they need to defend open guard. This one posture, and I go over the fundamental concept of open guard recovery. Alright, so that said, let's get into the episode 2, and I have a bunch of clips prepared for you, and we'll go over them. So the first one that I have for you here is of Leandro Lo, and I have actually many clips of Leandro Lo in this episode. Leandro Lo is probably one of my own personal favorites to jiu-jitsu players nowadays. And it's actually quite hard to find him doing the recovery movements, because I think a lot of people are unable to deal with his De La Riva grips on the leg, on the pants, and just don't even get to a real past threatening situations. You have to find like open way. You have to see Puchecha actually go at him to see Leandro in a bit of a trouble, or Rodolfo. That's just how good he is. So anyway, I am going to recap quickly a couple of things for you. Let's just watch the first clip, and then I'll show you the. So there we go. He does a little. The Puchecha steps out of the. Does a little long step motion, and tries to go for a move around towards the head and close the space here and finish the pass. Okay. So Leandro recovers the guard. Let's watch the clip to the end. He creates frames. He follows the knee rules. He's ready to pummel in the far leg. Don't worry, I will go over everything in a moment. So that was the entire clip. So let's start off with where it starts. So basically, Leandro goes for one of his, he likes to go underneath the far leg from the De La Riva. So he does that sometimes. You have a De La Riva grip, he goes for the far leg, tries to pummel this leg in and get X-guard situations here. So he lets go of this grip, but Buchecha just sprawls his leg out and gets actually a pass going. Gets a pretty threatening pass. So there we go. He stepped out, and Leandro now has to defend the guard. So once again, keeping your knees close, legs wide, is that the fundamental posture. Legs as wide as possible, from the knees as wide as possible, but knees close to him as much as possible. So that's the Illuminati for Jiu-Jitsu. Illuminati figure, not a triangle. Although if you extend this here, look, if you would extend this, you have the Illuminati here. Whatever, is this the eye here? I think so. Well, anyway, choke aside, that's the posture. Knees as wide as possible, but close to you as much as possible. So that's the fundamental posture that people, all these top guys, kind of go to when they need to start the recovery movements. And there's a good reason to do that. Watch episode 1 if you want to know more about that. So anyway, to be able to recover the guard, he needs to build a frame. That was one of the 3 things needed to recover the guard. The second one was that, and I'm going to illustrate this a lot in these clips, is that you want to follow the knee rule, which basically aligns your hip. And let me explain this to you. For him to be able to pummel in the far leg, so that's what we want to do. We want to pummel in the far leg. So if you're getting passed on Leandro is getting passed on his right side, you want to pummel in your left leg. That will stop the pass eventually. Okay, that will. Sometimes you'll also even don't need to pummel in the far leg when you get your near leg already in the middle, but a lot of times you'll pummel in the far leg. Now, to be able to pummel in the far leg, the mobility of the far leg is determined by the positioning of the near leg. So if you're passing on the right side of Leandro, so if Leandro's right knee is pointing towards right side, he's swirling the legs, like pointing the toes outwards, elevating heel. That means that his hip, the right side of the hip, is aligning towards that side. That means the far leg, the left leg, has also mobility in the hip to pummel all the way over there. So these hips, both hip sides have to be aligned, pointing at that side where you want to pummel in the far leg. And you'll see this happen so many times in in all of these clips that I'm going to show you. Let me slow down the speed a little bit of the clip. So there's a frame. He follows the knee rule. He turns the knee to the inside towards the side of the pass. He swirls the foot. If I just see the guy's foot, if I wouldn't see anything below from here, or let's say, okay, maybe that's too much. Let's say I would see only this area here. I would not see this here. And this area would be visible, what is outside of the screen area. I could already tell you that he's following the knee rule. Why? Because of where the toes are pointing, where your hip and knee is pointing. So if your toes are pointing towards that side, that means your knees pointing towards that side. That means your hip is aligned. The side of the hip on this side is aligned towards that side. That means you have so much horizontal movement in your far leg. This leg could move all the way over here easy because of the way the hips are aligned. That's the knee rule. Okay? So you need to create a frame, you need to follow the knee rule and pummel in the far leg, and that's what you'll see here as well. In this case, kind of Buchecha abandons the pass. That feels that he had a very, very strong posture already, just abandons the pass, doesn't even try to press forward anymore. So Leandro turns to guard, but immediately Buchecha is going to follow with a leg drag stylish. What I like to call this the hybrid pass, what you see in a moment, where he does sort of a leg drag, but he keeps moving to the side, tries to move to the side, and it just doesn't stop near the hip. And once again, what's happening here is that to be able to recover the guard, now let me just back off a little bit, a tiny second or two. That's good. You'll see a frame here. Frame, although it's not an ideal frame by any means, because it's on the farthest possible point of contact where it could be. Like if Leandro would be able to put his grip here and push from here, he would be, when his arm would be straight, there would be much more distance between the two of them. But he has the grip, but it's better than nothing. He has the grip on the very near the shoulder area of the gi, and he's pushing from there. So he does create some distance there. And what he's next doing is that he needs to follow the knee rule. And this leg that you don't see, this is going to be actually a nice example now, because the positioning of his foot only tells you exactly that he's following the knee rule. I can see only that his toes are pointing towards that side here. Right now you can see only the toes pointing that side. That means his knee is pointing towards that side. That means his hip is aligned towards that side. And that means the far leg, his left leg, can pummel him pretty easily. A lot of horizontal movement available. No magic hip flexibility or leg flexibility needed. I think if people wondered, like, oh my, I cannot pummel in the far leg because, I just don't have the flexibility. In other words, I'm reading out is you don't have the understanding of it yet. Because most of us, I mean, if you really are injured somewhere, like you have genuine, legitimate injury that limits your range of motion somehow, which most people don't have, so then you can say, okay, I really don't have the ability to do that, but most of you have the ability to do that. Most of us have the ability to do it. You just need the coordination. You need to know what you're doing. Alright. Let me clear this up. So basically, let's go a little bit back there. So, had the frame here. This leg is towards this side, and you also notice the distance, the relative position of this knee and the hip. His hip, you'd want to have your hip a little bit positioned, like sliding out towards the other side than your leg towards the side that you're getting past. That you want this leg to be more on this side, hip on the other one. This further increases the horizontal movement, aligns the hip even better, increases the horizontal movement of this left leg. And it's basically, he defended the passer already. Just keeps pushing to the outside, to the side of the passing side, his near leg. And there it is. Recover the guard, all good. And there's that. So that was the first clip. We have quite a few of Leandro's clips. So I'm playing at half speed right now, so you can see it a bit better, a bit slower. Can point out details better. So now we see a Lucas Lepri and Leandro match here. So Leandro on the bottom. Lucas goes for one of his signature knee cross passes. Tries to close the distance here. When he goes for a knee cross, tries to eliminate this distance here. So there would be very little here, and then just smash and slide the knee through, and you will see a nice defense to it. So Leandro builds a frame naturally, so we start seeing the frames here. Both of them, one will be under the chin, one arm will start pushing off from here. The other one he's going to place on the leg. There are different positions you could use as frames. This is one option, especially if it's so close. So he'll be pushing off from here as well to create some distance. And when he creates distance, notice, there we go. Now we see it. This is perfect. Stop. See what the near leg does. So this is the side that is getting passed on to this side. So this one has to follow the knee rule to align the hip so that the far leg has mobility and can come over. And again, just by looking at his toes, just by looking at his foot, I can tell you his hip is very mobile on the horizontal plane. Has a lot of mobility in the far leg. Just because I can see this foot here, I can tell you that he can bring his left leg over very easily. or the left leg has a lot of mobility on the horizontal plane. And why is that? Just going over this once again. This, you can, wherever you're sitting right now, just raise your heels off the ground a little bit. And now think about turning your toes to the outside. While bring your toes as much towards you as you can. Lift your toes towards you. And then turn them to the outside. Keep pulling them closer to you and turn them to the outside. What you'll notice is your knee turns exactly as you move your toes. Your knee turns with it and points to the same direction as your toes are pointing. And notice also that your hip starts to, and your hip is also pointing towards that side. They're all interconnected. So just by looking at this here, his toes are pointing towards himself, but the foot is being swirled. Toes are being turned to the outside. So this turns, so this is going this direction. That means the knee is going in this direction. That means the hip, somewhere in there, is aligned towards this side. So that means also the other hip can now look freely towards this side and have a lot of horizontal plane movement. That's why, hence why it's so up here already, almost ready to come in. Now, he's going to, because he has a grip on the leg, Leandro is going to pummel in the bottom leg here, which is, you don't see that too often, but because of this little frame on the leg, he's able to do that easily. Most of the time you'll see the frame underneath the neck. You'll see this leg come in more. So that's not a good arrow. You'll see this one come in. But it's a little variation, but it does the same thing there. So pummels in the bottom leg, and there we go, back in the guard. Alright, so we have one more clip on this match. Same thing, basically the same situation. Lucas goes for one of his signature passes with the knee cross, and Leandro gonna build frames. He already tries to bring the left leg over, but he builds frame now. Builds frame, you see the arms are building the frame. Look at the swirl on the bottom leg. How much, again, you see where the toes are pointing, there the knee is pointing, there the hip is aligning. So that means this leg. That's why it's so up here. It's almost in there. He can move it so freely because of this hip alignment. So his other hip is aligning towards this side as well. So he keeps the frames, and notice this. Look at this. Both of them a little bit swirling. He wants to bring this one over. By swirling the other leg, he gets mobility, more mobility on this hip. Hips aligning towards this side. And I think now, he's gonna be able to pummel in the far legs. Yeah, so it's gonna be switch up a little bit. So he moves, he turns. Lucas kinda stops pushing forward there with simply forward. Lucas stops pushing simply forward and instead kind of switches up the pass to sort of a movement, like a Toriano style movement. So he turns his left side forward here. That's what Lucas is going to try to do. Move towards the head with side steps. Tries to turn the left side forward. Right now he's directly in front of him. By also turning his body, he tries to actually get rid of the frames a little bit. So he's going to turn his body like this. He turns his body, and the leg that was outside turns forward. He tries to move towards the head, which is a very common movement when you pass on the outside. So we end up in this. I hope it's already familiar to you if you watched episode 1, this type of a frame and movement. So there's a frame here. You can see the arm, but Leandro has a frame here. Elbow on the mat. This is a very common structure, very common posture when recovering against outside passing. So this leg follows the knee rule. This hip is turned towards this side. It's turned exactly in the direction where the toes are pointing. That means the knee is pointing towards this side. A lot of mobility in this leg to come over the top. So there we go. He goes for an arm bar, but all the legs are actually in between, so it's just not going to happen. And we have guard again. Now, here actually is a little clip from a website, and I just wanted to make a little point here. Again, people sometimes say that, I don't have the flexibility to do this recovery motions or get the far leg in there. Basically, if you can do this motion that you're seeing right now, you can do it. And there's like, most of you don't have anything wrong physically to limit this movement. It's just coordination that you need. You should be able to smoothly, just do this movement. If you can do this, you don't have physical limitation for these recovery movements. The question is, can you do that? There are details and know-how how to do this move, but this kind of if you're able to turn your legs around you like in a 360 degrees almost, you can easily recover the guard. You can do this, going from through spinning motion like this. That is if you can do this, there's no limitations. You just need coordination. That's what I think jiu-jitsu is. It's coordination. It's about sticking your left arm there while bringing your hip a little bit like this, and then your right leg is doing that and your right arm is doing that, and as I'm trying to pull and push. See, there's a lot of things that you have to do at once, but it's easier sometimes for people to think, I just can't do it because of my flexibility, rather than think that get the coordination right. And it's not easy to spot if you don't know. If you don't do these movements and you don't even try to understand them, and if you're only doing possibilities like doing doing some specific passes and just some submissions and sweeps, and you don't focus on this, then you're lacking here. You're lacking in these movements, which I think is much more fundamental than doing any possibility. Alright, so let's continue with the clips. I have a few clips here from everybody's favorite Meow Brothers, and I'm not being sarcastic or not. I actually do like Meow Brothers a lot. I think they're awesome, at least when we're talking about their jiu-jitsu. So let's look at the first clip here. This is from one of the BJJ Hacks videos where it's a Leandro Low segment, and they're rolling there with the Meow Brothers. So we'll look at a couple of spots where Meow recovers very nicely. So here Leandro actually is initiating one of his signature hybrid passes. I mean, I learned kind of the hybrid pass off of him, watching him and trying to develop my own variation of it. But again, hybrid pass is when you kind of initiate the leg tragus motion, but you keep moving at the same time like you do in the Toriando. So he pulls and he keeps moving to the side. So what does the Meow do? I'm not sure which one of them it is, but anyway, build a frame. You build a frame. So in this case, he builds. He has his left arm there as a little bit of frame. He helps with the right arm. Notice a couple of things here again. And this is, even though he don't invert here by the end of it, you could very well be inverting here by the end of it. Simply again by using good coordination and biomechanics of your body. This leg is swirling, toes outside, heel raising a little bit. So that means the knee is pointing this side. Sorry. So that means the knee is kind of pointing towards this side, and the hip is starting to align towards this side here, giving his far leg so much mobility to come here over the top and recover the guard. And that's exactly what he does. He had the far leg over, and Leandro abandons the pass. So another sequence here that we see is Leandro going for kind of the long step style initiation, and tries to finish it as one of his hybrid passes. So he steps his leg out. Now he turns back to try to finish it as this. Look at the grimace on the face. That's really funny. Doesn't it's just funny. Anyway, I didn't notice that before. Alright, so anyway, what Leandro is trying to do, and this is something Leandro does well, is trying to control the far leg. See, if you think from the passing standpoint of view, controlling the far leg, which is supposed to finish the card recovery, by trying to control it is a very good thing to do. So Leandro is trying to control it with his mean face. He's trying to control it and trying to walk closer to him, trying to push the Miao towards this side. He's trying to, by pushing his leg, even in his near leg, he tries to push this side of the hip away. And again, the hips cannot go against each other. That's the whole point of the knee rule. So if there's so much force coming out of this side, and you try, and the near hip is more turning towards against the other side, you won't be able to recover the guard. So that's what the passer is trying to do. And on the other hand, that's what on the bottom you're trying to avoid and counter. So anyway, he builds a frame. There's frames here. You can see his arms coming here. There's a frame. Again, just by looking at this foot here, I can already tell you that the hip is aligned towards this side. Hip is aligned towards that side. The knee is turned towards that side as the toes are pointing towards that side. So there is mobility in this leg, in this hip here, to start coming over the top there. Bring this leg over. Now, the thing is, because Leandro keeps driving more towards this side, keeps controlling this and trying to push this towards this side, it's not easy to recover, but Miao manages to, you'll see this, he keeps, look, there's everything is aligned except for bringing this leg over, and Leandro keeps trying to control the far leg, keeps trying to get closer and control the far leg. Miao keeps a frame, tries to swirl, and eventually he actually manages to wiggle it free. I think there are details that make it easier for you to be able to pummel in the far leg against the gi grip or against the grip, which are very important to know. But he manages to do that and recovers the guard. Here is actually a clip with Keenan and Buchecha from, I think it's 2014 Worlds, where in the beginning of the match, Buchecha pulls guard, and Keenan does a nice hybrid pass again. Tries to push the legs away while moving to the side. And he gets a pretty good attempt out of it. See, he's trying to... Keenan is more trying to... Yeah, he's pushing it downwards, but he would also like to push it more on this side. Like, push it away, so the hips would be more aligned away. This gets a little bit messy. But he would want the Buchecha's hips to be turned towards this side. While you see Buchecha builds a frame, again a very common posture, elbow on the mat, starts to bring in the far leg. Although, look at the foot here. By looking at the foot again, it's pointing upwards. It's like, it's not on towards the Keenan, which would be ideal. It's more upwards. So that means the knee is pointing upwards. So that means the hip is not aligning towards the side of the pass, but it's more up here. So that means there's less mobility. There's less horizontal plane mobility on the far leg to come over. Now, and what makes it even harder for him, you'll see in a moment, is that Keenan keeps stepping closer. Keenan steps closer with his body to try to push the legs over. So the hip is now, again, look at the foot. Foot starts to point towards the other side a little bit. So that means the knee is pointing to the other side. That means the hip is starting to line towards the other side, which makes the pummeling in the far leg harder because the hips are going against each other. Okay, that's very important to realize here. And shame we can't see from this angle. I'd like to see from this angle because he's using a frame that he's able to kind of turn his hips around and follow the knee roll. You'll see that momentarily. But there's some magic happening here because what you'll see is that by all accounts, I think Keenan is in an excellent position right now to finish the pass, or at least start getting the back here. But Buchecha manages to turn his hips in the air, follow the knee roll, and pummel in the far leg, and it does so somehow by having frames on the other side. I have an idea what is it doing, but you can't really see it. So, but and you'll see in a moment you'll see Keenan was coming forward, and you'll see actually that Keenan is going to be stopped somehow. His hips are gonna back off actually a little bit, while at the same time where Buchecha aligns his hip, he makes this hip rotational move, which is almost like magic to me, but it's not magic, but it almost is. You see this right about now. Boom, there we go. You see that hip turn in the air. So let's watch it. The hips are totally out of position. It looks ridiculous. It looks ridiculous. But now you see Keenan, he turned his hip. Keenan actually fell back with his hip, so he's not drawing forward anymore. He fell back. So now everything is aligned. He can pummel in the far leg. This is already good. He can pummel in the far leg. But he did somehow something he did on the other side with the frames that we're just not quite able to see, because I thought that looked very, very promising for Keenan. It was very, very good. But just somehow he had the forward movement was stopped. He actually backed off a little bit. You saw that magical hip turn in the air. Show it to you once again. Hips are totally out of place. I'll play it even slower. 0.25 speed. Hips are totally out of place, and he does this right about now. You see the hips now? It's looking towards Keenan. Look, now everything is not pointing to the side or away, but towards the guy of the pass. Both knees are pointing that way. Means the hips are both aligned towards this side. Very good movement, and he has frame there. He has a good frame, or even probably with both arms. He has a very strong frames there, but we can't see them. So he recovers the guard here. Let's go faster again. Let's go half speed. So recovers the guard there. So there's that. So up next we have a match between Kron Gracie and Leandro Lo. I think it was 2011 or 12 Mundials. Anyway, it has some pretty interesting things in it, and I'm gonna show you guard recoveries from both sides using the same posture and concept. So anyway, we'll start off with Leandro here. So Kron goes for a leg drag, stylish thing, and Leandro recovers. So it went really fast. I did not even realize what happened there. So I'll go over it in a slow speed, and I'll show you some things that are happening here. It's about 1/3 speed. Let's go a little bit more back there. More back a little bit. Alright, so it's almost gonna happen. So let me get my epic pen out. Alright. So Kron is basically trying to move on Leandro's left side, trying to pull this out of position, this leg, drag it all the way to that side, get the hip, the left side of the hip turned that way. So that's the goal here, and then cover this distance, close it, and secure a pass. So that's what's happening here. So that's what Kron is doing. So Leandro naturally, actually, let's see. You can see it. Oh, now you can see it a little bit. He does have a frame here, so it's kind of a grip frame on the wrist. So he builds a frame, elbow on the mat. Again, a very common type of situation when dealing with outside style passing, especially in the leg drag, or what I like to call a hybrid pass variations. And Leandro brings the leg over, although it's not ideal. You'll see here, because the toes are more pointing upwards, so the knees pointing upwards, and so the hip is pointing upwards, and the far leg has a little bit less horizontal movement here. It's not as it's not as big as it could be. It could be much better, depending on if the knee, the leg, the foot, and the knee would be the hip would be turned more to the side, the near side, on the near side. So it's not ideal, and you'll see this play out, because Leandro is actually unable to fully recover the leg there. So Kron kept pressing on, Kron kept pushing it towards this side a little bit, pushing it away, and you'll see Leandro was unable to bring the far leg over because there was no mobility in this hip, in this leg, to bring it over, because the other one is so out of position. Look, it's not looking towards the side of passing. So he opts for, this is something you can switch to in this kind of situations, is go like a double under or underpass defense situations. You spread your legs wide and it's kind of like an underpass, but even in the underpass situation you want to kind of accomplish the same thing, because he went for the underpass. He tries to still push this side, the side that where the guy is passing on. You want that to be turned down on this side. So now he starts to turn himself here and make sure that his lower body starts turning the other way against the pass, and that's what you see Leandro do here. So his head, see, moves more to the side as he turns his hips towards the passing. So he can neutralize the pass. So there's a couple of things to pay attention here. If you're unable to do this, this you see the rule in action, and it wasn't. If you're unable to follow the knee rule, you can't actually recover the guard. That's where you don't feel like you don't have the flexibility in the leg to bring it over. That's important to understand. And also there's and a lot of these top guys, the next step of the defense is going like a double under situation. But that's not the topic of the day to talk about double under defense, and that'll be maybe some other time. Anyway, he manages to recover the guard. So next up we have we're gonna look at same match but on the opposite sides. So now it's Kron on the bottom, and Leandro is gonna do one of his signature hybrid passes. And I'll play you the clip in its entirely, the clip, and then we'll go over it in slower. So goes for his hybrid pass, throwing the legs and moving, throwing the legs and moving, and Kron manages to recover. There we go. That was nice. Alright, so let's look at it a bit more slower, and I'm gonna try to point out a few things. So Leandro goes for a signature hybrid style pass. I like to call it hybrid style, where he pushes the legs to the side and he himself walks around here to this side. Now Kron is just going to do what every of the top guys have shown you is going to do. Let me just point it out for you. There's a look in this area. You'll see an arm appear and place a frame about here in a moment. Let me even go slower. Let me see how slow can I go with this one. 0.12 speed. Alright. See, there's the arm. There's the arm coming to build a frame. Let's continue. The elbow is on the mat. The elbow is on the mat. There's a frame here by Kron. Elbow goes to the mat, kind of creating this line, this little, that's not cool, creating this pushing line from elbow to the contact point with the wrist or with the hand. Now he's gonna try to let's continue. I'll show it a little bit further. Let's go 0.33 speed. What happened here? Is there a glitch? Let's go again. So tries to push the leg out of place. Kron tries to do exactly the opposite. He wants to make sure that his leg is swirling. It's hard to see here, but now you can see this. Just by again looking at the position of this foot, you can see the foot, where the foot is pointed. There is the knee. There is the hip. So a nice alignment of the near side gives you a lot of mobility on the far side, and the leg is basically already over, but Leandro continues to press. Leandro tries to still lift this leg and lift it and push it towards this side as he tries to walk closer, so to make to continue with the pass. And you'll see, so Leandro keeps pushing forward, and you'll see Kron nicely shrimping, slight shrimping, kind of his hip out towards this side, so that his hip stays here. Remember I told you this relative position of the knee and the hip, the near knee and the hip. So you want the knee to be closer to the other guy, turn towards this side, and you want the hip to be more in its entirety. You want the hip to be positioned more on the outside. So he keeps sliding this. He keeps the frame. He keeps sliding that to make sure that it's there, allowing him to repummel the far leg. So we'll see this in a momentarily again. We'll see in a moment. So Leandro goes again for the same thing. Frame is looking for the frame constantly. Kron with his right arm is looking for the frame here. So, and he's already positioned well. Like, this is Kron's foot. I know the quality isn't the best. It's hard to see, but this is Kron's foot pointing this way. It means the knee is pointing this way. It means the hip is pointing this way. It means the far leg is coming in well from there. It means this hip is also aligning well from that side. And now, as it keeps pressing forward, you'll see this in a moment. He pushes them. He steps forward for a moment now. With these two grips that he has on the legs, Leandro was able to push the legs towards that side. So the hip is a little bit starting to turn on this side more now, as are the toes pointing that way. So it's not easy to bring, at this very moment, it's very hard to bring the far leg over. So what Kron does is keeps the frame, make sure there's a frame there, does a shrimp off the mat, uses the foot on the mat, and shrimps his hip out, and you'll see a nice slide. You'll see a nice slide happen. And the relative position of the knee and hip, look, they're almost straight above each other. So this is the hip and this is the knee. So the relative position is very little. If you draw a line from here, so you'd want these X's to be far away on the either side. You want the right side X to be as far here, and you want the left side X to be as far on the left. But right now they're almost at the same line, so that's bad for the bottom person. But Kron shrimps now. There we go. Look at the relative position of the knee and the hip now. So if we go to the center here, it's about here. The positioning, the distance between those two X's is much bigger, and that's what you're looking for. You want your, and look at the toes again. They're pointing more towards this side again now because of the slide, because the hip slid out. Because of the shrimp he did. There's still frame here, so he cannot close the distance. So Leandro can't get, even though he fell down and tries to close the distance, but he can't get closer because the frame stops his movement. And now, after the shrimp, the far leg has mobility to pummel in. Look at this, and the far leg is coming. The far leg came in, that's it. There's your guard recovery using the simple fundamental concept that I've showed you. Now this clip I already went over, but it snuck in here somehow. I don't know how, but it snuck in here. I guess I made a little error somewhere. We went over this clip. I have basically two more clips for you showing recovery, and two more clips of, but I'll get to that. The last two clips, they're a little bit special. Well, not really, but we'll get to that. Anyway, some of the smoothest jiu-jitsu that you will ever see comes from this man on the bottom. That is Rafael Mendez. And this is the super fight he had with Osvaldo Quexinho, if I'm not misspelling it, in Percut. I might be misspelling it in English. But anyway, this is a super fight. And just a really couple of nice things I want to point out here. Whoa, what's that? Let's go. That's a little glitch. But it was so smooth you didn't even notice this. Let's just watch I have two clips back to back with Rafa Mendes in this match, and I'll show them to you, and then I'll go over them slowly. So first, you see a leg drag, boom, just nothing. It was the other leg drag immediately followed by smooth. It was so smooth you didn't even notice what happened. So again, leg drag, repummeled. That's it. So that went so fast you probably didn't even realize what happened. So let me go over them very slowly for you guys. You'll see what's happening. And I'll tell you, this is what jiu-jitsu, to me, at least to me, I don't know about everyone else, but to me, this is what jiu-jitsu is made of. Positional struggles, positional control, positional nuances like this. This is where 90% of the match takes place. It's positional things. And then you'll see a sweep, you'll see an armbar or submission, or you'll see something of the possibility side, like a sweep or a submission or a pass. That'll be a very small period of time will be spent doing that, but like vast majority, almost all the match is done in positional struggle, and this what I try to focus on. I think if you get good at that, then it's easy to add your own nuance and your own uniqueness on top of it. So anyway, I got started rambling a little bit. Anyway, let's look at the first leg drag. So here, let me slow it down. Let's do 1/3 speed. So Osvaldo grabs the leg with 2 arms and is ready to pull it to this side. Tries to pull this Rafa's entire left side out of position there, so that he can come in here and pass, but it's just not gonna happen. So as soon as he pulls this now, Rafa just follows the knee rule, basically makes sure that this leg that Osvaldo is pulling, that starts turning out, that swirls outside, his knee will be turned outside, and this will happen. So his hip starts to align to the side, and he'll bring the far leg over, and it's so smooth that it's one of the smoothest things you'll ever see. Again, Rafa Mendes probably, technically, in my eyes, he is just the best. I put it even slower. That's 1/4 of speed. This is what happened. Show it to you again. So he pulls the leg, and you can't even see it from here, but his toes are pointing to the side of the passing. So his left side hip of Rafa is aligned to this way. That means the top leg, the far leg hip, has also this angling at the side of the pass, and so it can come very easily over here, and that's what happened. Again, it was just too smooth to even realize. Frames, it now comes to frames even. The legs were so fast, the frames were lagging behind, so he'll do another one. And you can already see, just as he's pulling, already Rafa is turning, the toes are turning towards the side of the pass. The knees starting to turn towards the side of the pass. That means the hip is starting to turn the side of the pass, and the far leg has so much mobility to come over, horizontal mobility on this spectrum here. The top leg could move so far on this line, so it'll come so smoothly over top. Like boom, it's over top. It's probably so hard to see, even in slow motion, and yeah, you didn't. It's very hard to see, but this is exactly what's happening. And look at this, Illuminati confirmed again. Knees, distance between the knees wide, but knees close to the shoulder area. The fundamental posture I went over in episode 1. Yeah. So, I think I have one more clip of this this match here. Yes, so this one. So see, basically a leg drag again. Osvaldo kind of does the hybrid pass-ish, leg drag-ish thing. Pushes the right leg of Rafa to Rafa's left side, and tries to close this distance here. So that's what he's gonna do. Falls down. So let me just point out this again to you. Again, this is so smooth and hard to see. Look at this arm. First, I want you to turn your attention to this arm. It's gonna be a frame underneath his, near his chest, near his neck, around this area. Let's just try to focus on that. As he's coming down, see, there's the Rafa's fingers here. So there's a frame there. There's a frame, so he cannot get really tightly close, even though it might seem he's very close. He's not actually able to finish this pass. No way. So there's a frame. So now look at now let's turn our attention to a couple of things. He will start turning this. There's a frame here, and he will start turning these toes to the side of the pass. So everything starts on his right side, starts to align towards the side of the pass. So his far leg can come over, and it's already over. And if I could point out to you this, because of this angle it's hard to see, but you can basically get the idea. Because of the foot is here, because Rafa's right foot is here, you can imagine where his knee is. It's near the other side of Osvaldo. Okay, so the relative positioning of the hip and the knee is actually very big. If you have some geometrical 3D visualization skills, from this angle they would look like the X's are on top of each other. But if we would turn, if his hips would turn towards us, we would change their position. You would see there's the relative position of the hip and the knee is so far is very big, which is good. Allows a lot of mobility in the far leg. And there we go, guard recovered. Nice. Yep. So here actually I have two clips for you just to illustrate what happens when you can't follow the knee rule, when you can't pummel in the far leg. You're unable to keep your near side leg turned towards the side of the pass. Bad things happen, and this I'll show it to you. So the first one is here, the same match, Kron and Leandro. So Leandro gonna go again for his signature pass. Pushes the legs to the side. Pushes the legs to the side. Starts walking here closer towards the head. Walks closer. Starts pushing and keeps stepping closer. Step and step and step and gets closer to me. Now look at this. So Kron didn't manage to get the knee. He doesn't even have knee in between the two of them. So the knee is totally out here. It's not close to his shoulder. That's bad. And on top of that, it's pointing towards this side, meaning the hip is pointing towards this side. And look at the foot. Foot gives you also the indication where everything's pointing. So that means the far leg is not pummeling in by any means at this point, because the far leg would want to tilt the hip towards exactly the opposite side where it's right now, where the near hip is. Sorry. So his hips are turning against each other here when he tries to recover the top leg. So it's not going to happen. So he was out of position, didn't manage to do that, and what can he do? He can try to turtle here. So he's just not able to recover the far leg in. Leandro keeps a lot of pressure forward, keeps it the distance between the two of them minimal, like gets very close. So, and if you try to turtle, you give up your back, or at least there will be a back attack. And that's what you see happen here. And another one, this is another clear-cut case, it's very easy to see, is I have Ottavio Souza on the bottom here and Lucas Lepri on top. And Lucas is going to do the similar hybrid style pass, where he is going to push a little bit like leg drag and move at the same time. So in a moment, Lucas, see, he's getting the grip on the ankle. He's going to push the ankle towards this side so that Ottavio's knee, hip start to align a little bit towards that side as he himself starts to come around towards the other side, while bringing his head closer to try to reduce the distance between the two of them and keep it more tighter. So this is what's going to happen here. So he's going to push the ankle and move sideways first in there. So now there's a threat initiated. So Ottavio starts defending. He builds a frame, wants to bring in the far leg over. So that's what you'll see. He will keep trying to do this. but it's very hard for him to do for a simple reason. Look at the knee. He this is where he would like to turn his knee towards that side, the side of the pass. Lucas, with his grip on the leg, keeps pushing it the other way. And if you look at the relative position of the knee and the hip, it's directly on top of each other. Okay, see, there's no horizontal distance between the two of them. So Otavio has not shrimped is unable to slide his hip out, or doesn't slide his hip out of there, so that he would be able to turn the knee towards there. So he maintains the same position, just keeps trying to wiggle in the top leg. He's trying to keep the wiggle in the top leg, but it's not coming. Look at the toe, also gives you a little bit of an indicator. The toe pointing a little bit towards that side, meaning the knee starts to point a little bit towards that side, meaning the hip is starting to point a little bit that side. And if you try to bring in your far leg, which would like the hip to start pointing this way, the other side of the hip, you see, they're starting to cross each other, and that's not good. They have to be aligned. What he could try to do now is shrimp and slide his hip out. If he can manage to slide his hip totally to that side, the relative position between the knee and the hip would be here then, would be much bigger than it is at this moment. At this moment, they're right on top of each other. So he does not do that. What Lucas is going to do, he's going to push the leg even further towards the other side and move himself in a sidestepping motion towards the head. Right about now, pushing and no, not yet. I was a little overzealous there. It's gonna happen now. He's gonna keep pushing and moving towards the head, and this is what happens. Bad things happen. Now you're in a very bad spot. You can just turtle up now, and that's what Otavio is going to try to do by exposing his back, and that's what you see at the top level when the pass happens. A lot of times the other guy turtles, avoiding the points, but opening up the back attack. All right. So these were all the clips that I wanted to show you. I think for a while at least, I am done with the open guard section. I hope you got something good out of it. Start to see maybe things in a different perspective. And then yeah, so before I wrap up, a little commercial from my website. Each and every episode is sponsored basically by myself. It's my online training site, bjjblackbelt.net. Everything I cover in these episodes, I cover in depth, in detail. On my website, I have a pretty big open guard section to show you different passes, how you apply the frames, how do you follow the knee rule, how do you keep sliding the hip out, how do you do that, how do you pummel in the far leg, and lots of other stuff as well. And it's constantly growing. And I just want to point out something. I mean, there's tons of online training sites available nowadays, and you have world champions with their sites, and you might wonder, what does this guy, what do I have to offer that maybe they don't do better, because after all they are world champions. So let me just clear something up in that regard. It really goes back to what I think is important in jiu-jitsu, and there's actually a video that I did a few years ago. Again, if I'm able to get these text boxish things working, I'll probably give you a link right about now. If not, check it on the bottom. What I think is important in jiu-jitsu is the posture and pressure of positions. What does that mean? Like I briefly mentioned you in the middle of the video, is that the most majority of the match at a high level it's not like one constantly moving between techniques, like one sweep, one pass, and then an escape, and then an submission attempt, and then a pass. No, it's one guy plays guard, the other one passes. There's a lot of positional struggle going on in there, and I try to focus on these things, these positional struggles, and when I look at a lot of online instructionals, I see a lot of this kind of possibilities being taught, like you do an arm bar, or you do some kind of submission, or you do a pass and then submission, or you do a sweep and then a pass. These are possibilities, and possibilities just define kind of uniqueness and individuality, in my opinion. Like, everybody has their own possibilities. They do a little bit differently. Somebody likes this sweep, somebody likes to play that card, and so forth. So to me, all the time I've learned jiu-jitsu and I've done jiu-jitsu, I try to focus more on what I consider fundamentals of jiu-jitsu, like exactly the posture and pressure of different positions. And I've taken myself the subscription from a lot of these online sites, and don't get me wrong, I think they're very good, and people are different. What works for me is trying to understand the positional nuances of things, and that helps me get my jiu-jitsu better. I really feel that. Like, when I look at these top guys at their websites, I got a lot more out of it when I decoded what they're doing instead of what they were teaching. You know, when I looked at their movements and I said, okay, he's doing that. All right, he's going like this. But he himself is teaching some totally other thing, which is just not helping me. I mean, I took a private once with I'm not gonna name any names, but I took a world champion, IBJJF world champion, black belt, adult, and I rolled with him in the private, and it was years ago, and that was the first time I started really feeling like the pressure. The way he was passing, he was killing my hips. Like, at a distance, I was unable to turn towards the guy, and I'd never felt this before. And I asked him later on, like, how do you pass that way, or why can't I stop it from the bottom of the guard? And he ended up teaching me an omoplata. Okay, that was the answer that I got from him. Now, I'm not saying that he was malevolent or something like that, but I got a lot more out of it by later on just thinking through that the way he was passing, he was trying to kill my hips in a way that I was unable to follow the knee rule. Now I can say this. At the time, I was far away from knee rule. I didn't know even what the knee rule or this. I was unable to grip everything at that level. But just that what got me further once I started realize on a conceptual level what he was trying to do, not in a possibility level. So where I'm trying to get with this entire story is that I have my own approach to jiu-jitsu, which I just have not seen much online or even on this world champions teach. And again, I'm not saying that it's bad or good, or so one of them is bad, one of them is good. I'm just saying that it's different, and this works for me to figure things out in this way, and it keeps developing my jiu-jitsu. Again, I do possibilities as well. I have my own attacks that I like to go to, but once again, I believe that these are that define individuality, and these are different for everyone. But the fundamentals, like I've shown you here in this open guard series, like the bottom guy, they all use this concept. Again, they might not even think themselves that they're doing this, because the human body is a very intelligent thing. You do a lot of training, and your body starts to adapt to it, even without the mind knowing. You see that your body is your guard is somehow defending almost itself. You play a lot of open guard, you start realizing that your open guard gets really good. But when you try to explain it to the other guy, you can't quite put it into words. So a human body is a very intelligent thing. It starts to adapt to situations. I try to figure out on a very fundamental level what is there. And when I did years ago, when I did my breast jitsu videos, I tried to start conveying my knowledge to everybody and started to get the word out, how I was thinking and what I was thinking when I approached jiu-jitsu. And I got a lot of so much positive feedback. People just messaging me and telling me, they never realized this way you could look at jiu-jitsu, and they started to understand better. So I believe I do things a little bit different than what I see out there, and it helps. And there's a lot of people like me who find this type of approach better to them. So that's what I'm trying to do with my online endeavor. Yeah. Okay, so that's my website. If you want, you can go and check it out. I have a few free clips there. You can watch them. You can also follow me on other social media. I have my own Facebook athlete page. You can go check that out. I have my Instagram. And if you like this video, then please like it, drop a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe. This helps me get my perspective out to everyone. So and of course you can share the video. Just share it with your friends, show it on some social media. It's all good. Alright, so I'll be seeing you next week. I thank you very much for listening. So this was Open Guard Continued, episode 2 of my very own Jiu Jitsu show. Peace, bye.